Good morning, grade 6. Today, this is our last lesson for this unit. It's about energy conservation. So, the first thing you need to know that when we measure energy, we measure it in a unit called joules. And you can just put a capital J to indicate it. Now, what is the unit? The unit is the word we put after the number to let us know what is the thing that we are talking about. Just the way we used to measure force and weight with Newton and mass with kilograms, we measure energy in joules, regardless of what type of energy it is. So where does energy go? Here we can see a picture of a digger, and it's used in many different sites to dig in the ground and take the dirt out. Now, the digger needs a supply of energy to do these things. It gets it from where? From the fuel in the tank. And this energy of the fuel is chemical energy. Now, inside the machine, it turns into electrical energy, and then into this arm that lifts up, it turns into gravitational potential energy. And then when this arm lifts the dirt and deposits somewhere else, it turns into kinetic energy. So as we can see here in this example, that energy does not go away. It transfers and changes from one form to another. When the digger lifts things and pushes things or pulls things, it is doing work. For example, when it lifts some bricks, it's increasing their gravitational potential energy. The digger's engine gets hot, and this requires energy too. Because the digger is warmer than its surrounding, heat energy spreads out into the surrounding. So we can see many different transformation of energy. We can see it here. Now let's say here that in this diagram shows us the transformation of energy. From the fuel we have 10 million joules. It was divided, 5 million joules transferred as work and 5 million joules transferred as heat. So the same amount we started with is the same amount that was divided, that we ended up with. So conservation of energy, we have another example of a torch. A torch uses a battery as its energy supply. If we use a torch, the battery will eventually run out. Now, the battery has chemical energy inside it. It turns into electricity in the wires, electrical energy, and then when it reaches the bulb, it turns into light energy and heat energy. So this energy was transferred into different types, but also stayed the same amount. So this is called the principle of conservation of energy. Now this principle, what is the main ideas in it? The first idea is that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. Like we said in many different examples before, that energy doesn't come from nowhere and it does not disappear. It only changes and transfers from one type to another. The other thing is that in any change, the same amount of energy after the change as there was before the change. If we started with 10 joules, we end up with 10 joules. If we started with 100 joules, we end up with 100 joules. If we started with 3 million joules, we end up with 3 million joules. So the same amount we begin with is the same amount we end up with.